All right, so the instructions, that we have here, and this question here came from Dan. So the set of rules that we have here are for generating a long signal. So basically, we just kind of, logically reverse everything for a short signal. Right. So looking at this from a long signal point of view, that's what I'm using the green triangles for, right? So these are the these are the kind of setup inflection bars here. So what we're looking for is the wicks of the bars, all right? So the inflection or the reversal that we're looking for is from the low price of the bar, right, the low wick, or the high wick, right? So for a short signal, right, we'd be looking at the high of the bar, and for a long signal, we'd be looking at the low of the bar. And so what we want, right, is basically to find a bar with, the lowest low, looking back lower than the last 5 bars, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So there we go, right? So this bar right here, right, its low is lower than the last 5 bars, and the same could be said here, right? Same with this bar here. If we, take a look back, right? So, so every time that we do get a lower low, we're basically going to abandon, right, the previous bar low and go with the candle, that's made the most recent low, right? So, I'll just mark that as well, right? So my triangles are really just kind of marking bars that kind of that could qualify. Actually, no. Let's say that they do qualify. They do qualify for the low inflection bar, right? So as they're termed in these instructions, they're basically low price inflection points or low inflection bars. Let's see here. Where else? Here we go. Yeah, basically the triangles are the low inflection bars. So in order to identify a low inflection bar, right, we do need another bar afterwards. So we can't actually identify these bars until we get the next bar closing here, right? So, right, because we're looking for a low point or a low inflection point, right? So the low comes down and then it reverses and it inflects back up, right? So same thing here, right? We got a low coming down and then the low price inflects back up or reverses back up. So so that's the first pattern that we're looking for, right? Is this low inflection bar. And then the signal bar, what actually, qualifies this whole pattern here, this whole setup, is the signal bar. And so rule number 2 here is what qualifies the signal bar. And what we need is, let's see here. So I'm going to let's put a diamond on this because this didn't qualify. And what we're looking for, right, is this. Yeah, let's actually mark that like so. So we have a low inflection bar, and so then after that we have some other rules here that we haven't gotten to yet, but we do basically have a 4-bar waiting period for the signal bar to actually set up, right? So so once we get our inflection bar, we can the signal bar has a 4-bar opportunity to set up, right? So something like that. So, and it just so happens that the next bar actually does qualify as the signal bar here. So what's needed is, actually I should probably move this down here. So what we do is we take the top of the bar there and we extend that price forward, although technically BloodHound cannot take prices and extend them forward. So this logic here is going to get fairly complicated, but we'll get into that later. But what we're looking for here is for the signal bar, it needs to have the body, the top of the body, right? So in this case, right, with this being an up bar, it would be the close of the bar or the top of the body that price needs to be higher than the top of the body of our inflection bar, right? So that's why we're giving a 4-bar waiting period for that to happen. So let's see here. Yeah, let's go back to, we'll just take a look at this one here. This candle here didn't qualify, right? The one with the diamond in it didn't qualify for a signal because the body is way down here, right? So the top of the body is down here, and it did not, I don't want to say close, but the top of the body is not higher than the top of this inflection bar body, right? So it doesn't matter what the price is, the body, could be the open or close for both of these bars here, but we just want to look for the top of the body and make sure that the signal bar is higher than the inflection bar. Let's see here. So now if we look at this from a short standpoint, right, so there we go, to kind of use my same drawing here. So this high point, right, it's higher than the last 4 bars, so we do have a high inflection bar, and here's the bottom of the body, and the next bar, right, the low of its body is lower than the high inflection bar's body. So then this would qualify for a short signal right there. So it's fairly straightforward, despite all the words it took to describe it. Probably the most complicated part is that, in the description here, the most complicated part is that we don't really know what the direction of the body is going to be, right? So, depending on, so the direction of the body is not important to this set of rules here, to this system here. What is important is either the high of the body or the low of the body. So, here's a good example right down here. Our inflection bar, right, it's a down bar, but then the signal bar is an up bar. So, so we're comparing the close to the open price, right? Whereas over here, we would be comparing the close to the close. All right. So, with the understanding here of the system rules here, let's get BloodHound ready. So I already have BloodHound on my chart. Let me shrink this up a little bit. So the first thing you always want to do when you start building a new idea in BloodHound is provide a file name, right? So let's hit the change button there. And that's going to open up our Save As window. And I'm just going to put in today's workshop date here. So it is 3/11 already. All right, so we have a file name, so all of our work will start being saved to that file. And so let's start working on the logic board here. So switch over to the logic tab, hit new, And let's see, what should I call this here? I think coming up with a name is sometimes the more challenging part for me. So, all right, so there you go. Some kind of name like that. There we go. We'll leave it at that. So I always like to start with the easy parts first and then kind of, move into the more complicated parts here of the logic. So, finding these inflection bars is going to be the easy part, right? So again, the triangles is what I marked for the inflection bars here. So to do that, we're going to use the Inflection Solver. And most people aren't familiar with the term inflection. It just simply means a change in direction, right? So an inflection on a chart means a reversal up or a reversal down, right? So, all right, so an inflection, basically on a chart, again, it's just, either a price is reversing down or price is reversing up. And so what we're looking for is, a reversal in either the high prices or the low prices of the bar, right, the wicks. So let's see here. Let's call this a wick inflection, I guess. All right, and we'll just abbreviate the name there. So for a long, right, we're looking at the low price, right? We're looking at the low wicks to reverse up to generate ultimately, right, a long signal here. So for longs, we're going to be utilizing the low price, and almost all the time, I'd say probably 98% of the time, your short is going to be using the opposite price. And in this case, that is true. So for shorts, we're going to be using the high of the bar, right, the high wick. So if we look at this, let's move this over. There we go. Let's see. No, that was correct. Sorry. Yeah. So if we look at this, right, we had here we go, right? We had the high price move up and then reverse down, and we had a short signal here, right? So, same thing right here. So we had the low moving down, and then the low reversed up, and we have a long signal, right? An up inflection here on this bar here, right? So, right. So you'll notice here. Now, sometimes people expect the actual inflection bar to actually have the signal on it, right? But you don't actually have an inflection until the following bar, right? So in other words, to get this short signal here on this bar, and here I'll just use a little arrow, right? So the short signal on this bar, well, the high price had to move back down before we actually had a high reversal down, right? So you're never going to get an inflection signal on the actual bar that generated the high point, right, or the bar that generates the low point, right? It's always going to be on the bar after, because you got to have price reversing the opposite direction, right? So, like right here, right, the triangle's marking the low point, and then when the low moves higher, then we actually get the inflection point there. So the signal is always going to be on the following bar, right? So there we go. So we just, obviously we just have a ton of, reversal highs and lows there. So that's done. Now to kind of start cleaning this up here, There we go. I think it's let's see. Yeah, so we do have some qualifications here. So here's the first one here. So our low point needs to be lower than the last 5 bars, right? So we can start eliminating all of these, just miscellaneous high and low points there. So let's see here. Let's see if I can find some examples here. All right, yeah, here's an example. This long signal here, right, is coming from this low point. And if we look back, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, going back 4 bars, right? These have lower lows than this one. So, that would eliminate this long signal here, or this long output, from coming from this low point. So that's what we'll start doing. And let's see here. Yeah, I was thinking about using an indicator to help us visualize this, but I think it's just going to clutter things up a little more. Yeah, I think we can easily just kind of take the low point and extend it back and see if there's any bars that are lower than that. I think we can do that visually, so we'll just keep this, I'll keep my chart a little simple here. But as far as, building a solver to identify that, what we're going to do is use the comparison solver, right? Yeah, so again, I should keep this on here, right? We're gonna take this low point and compare it to the previous low points there, right? There, I'll just modify it like that. All right, so to do that, let's connect this comparison solver up. And let's see, I need to come up with some kind of a name for this. All right, so we're comparing the current low or high, right? So we'll just kind of stick with the long setup or the long signal terminology. So we're comparing, right, the current bar's low to a 4-bar lowest low, right? So actually, what the solver is going to be doing is it's going to be tracking the lowest low of the last 4 bars. So let's take a look at, actually no, let me take this one step at a time. So for input A, that's going to be the current bar's low or high price. So we're going to set type to price. So the input type is going to be price. And so for a long, we're again, looking at the low prices, and for shorts, the opposite. So that'll be the high prices. Now, input B, that is going to be our 4-bar lower low or lower high. So again, input B is going to be price, right? And so if we look at this, and let's see, actually we can, yeah, so if we're on this bar, right, let's scroll that back. So if we're on this bar, right, input A is the current bar's low price. Input B, we want it to be the previous 4 bars here. And so the way we're going to set up input B is it's going to say, oh, you know what, this is the lowest low, and extend it forward for 4 bars, right? So this would be the lowest low, and then, you know, internally, you know, after this bar, when it gets to, let's see here, yeah, and then eventually when it gets to the bar here that we're analyzing, right, this lower low price is then going to step up. But, you know, but for now, for this bar, you know, we're comparing this low price to the lowest low of the last 4 bars. So that's going to be, you know, this price down here. And the way we do that is, again, I need to set up my prices here like so, and then we're going to use a look back period. All right, so in this case, a 5, let's see, a 5 bar, let's see, oh, yeah, so it actually is going to be a 5 bar. So yeah, so all right, so I kind of have to change my explanation here. So yeah, so we're going to do a 5 bar look back, and you know, we're going to be analyzing where's the lowest low. Well, that's going to be this bar back here. So we're going to find this lower low back here, and compare this price, right? So we're going to compare that low to that low, right? So all right, so we want the lowest low or the highest high. So we do need to utilize the look back processing. So for a long, we actually want to find the minimum value, right? So if you're looking for the lowest low, well, right, that's the minimum value of all the low prices. Right? So for a long look back processing, we're going to take the low prices of the last 5 bars and find the minimum value or the minimum price of all those 5 low prices, right? And that's the definition of a lowest low, right? Is the minimum value of all your lows. And so for the short, right, we want to find the highest high of the last 5 bars. So that would be a max value, right? We want to find the maximum value of of all the highs there. So yeah, and so that is input B there. So all right, and then next we need to verify that the default output here is what we actually want, right? So in this case, let me kind of clean this up. So in this case, we want this low here. So this low needs to be lower than the lowest low of the last 5 bars. This price needs to be lower. So in other words, A needs to be less than B. So for a long output, remember, we're generating a long output from this bar being the lowest low. Right? Now this doesn't qualify. So if we skip forward here, let's actually look at something proper. Yeah, so if we look over here, we'll just get rid of this. Yeah, so if we look over here, right, this low point right here is, as we look back, all 5 bars, this is the lowest low, right? And we want this low to be lower than all the other lows. So what we actually want is, now this is never going to happen, but we do want A to be less than B, right? Remember, A is this point here, and we want it to be less than B, and B is the lowest low of the last 5 bars. But as we can see, this low and the lowest low of the last 5 bars are actually equal to each other, right? Because this bar is, this bar is the lowest low. So what we're actually looking for is A to equal B, right? So A is the low of the current bar, and it needs to be equal to the lowest low of the last 5 bars. All right, so again, in our little look back period here area, right, they're both the same. So really, the A equals B is really what we're looking for here. So, all right, so let me reverse the outputs for the short output here, like so. Right. So if we look right at this logic here, well, look at this. Actually, our low points are being marked for us. So if we look at this, yeah, this bar here, if we look back, it's the lowest low of the previous 4 bars. And of course, our low inflection bar here, right, is marked. Our low inflection bar here is marked. Yeah, there we go. So, and if we look at the shorts, right, well, right, this high here is higher than the previous 4 bars, and this high is higher than the previous 4 bars, right? Now this high is not, so there's no short on this bar here, but then we make high points, right? And obviously that's higher, and that's higher, right? So that explains why we're getting a short output right on these bars. So now we can actually start combining 2 conditions together. And so we can take our Wick inflections here. Right? So if we look at the chart, right, there's all of our kind of miscellaneous Wick inflections there. And now we can connect in our comparison solver, and that's going to add some filtering. And it filtered everything out. Let's see, what do we do wrong here? Oh, yeah. Right. So, remember what happened here is, so this is our low point, but remember the inflection happens on the next bar, right? So there's no short, or there's no inflection on the actual low bar, right? The inflection is 1 bar later. But if we look at our comparison solver, right, basically our little filter here, right, it doesn't have a output on the inflection or on the next bar, right, after the inflection here. There's no output. So what we need to do is shift that output forward, and we're going to use a look back node. So we take the output and shift it forward 1 bar. Right? Did you guys see that? Here, let me show you again here. Right? So I'm connected directly up to the solver. right? And you can see all the racing stripes. Now, when I connect up the look back, you'll notice all the racing stripes, right? Everything shifts forward 1 bar. So let's connect that up. Bingo, right? Everything just shifted forward 1 bar. So if we go back to, our little bar here in question, right? We took the lowest low, output here, confirmation, and shifted it forward onto this bar. So with this look back, we're using the displacement function, right? So basically, NinjaTrader's displacement function just shifts everything forward, right? If you've ever used the displacement on an indicator, right, you'll notice every indicator has this little displacement setting here, and it's normally set to 0, right? So that way you're not shifting your moving average forward. But if you do want to take your moving average and shift it forward onto the next bar forward, right, you use that displacement function. So basically that's what we're doing, is using Ninja's displacement function to shift things forward. So let me name this. So this look back is basically just utilizing the displacement function here from NinjaTrader. Okay, so now let's put that back. So let's connect up our AND node. Right. So again, there's all of our high and low inflections, and now we'll connect up our filter and there. So now we're starting to get some filtering here. All right. So this is going to start looking a little cleaner here. So that's actually our identification of validated inflection bars here. Right, so that's going to be rule number 1 here, right? The formation of the low price, reversal. Actually, wait. Yeah, that is it. So, yeah, rule number 1 is basically our low inflection bar there. So, yeah, there we go. Low price, inflection points. And we filtered it out here, looking back, right, at the last, actually it says the last 5 candles. So let's adjust that. So if you want to adjust, this look back period here, that's pretty easy to do, right? So right now, this look back period, I actually set it up to only look back 4 bars. So if we want to go back 1 extra bar, like so, I'll pull these lines back 1 extra bar. Yeah, so we can actually see that this one here is not going to qualify, right? It's going to get removed. All right, so to adjust that look back period, all we need to do is for input B, remember input B, that's what's finding the lowest low or the highest high within this look back, and we'll just adjust it to 6, like so. And let's see what happened here. Something happened with our displacement node. Well, let's see. If we get an error like that, I think those are pretty much benign errors when you're building a system here. So if we just close that out and let's just reload the chart, and that'll clear things up for us. There. All right. Yeah. So it's all working. And if we look now, we can see that, right, the signal or the short, signal that we had here is now removed because we extended our look back period to 5 bars, right? And so obviously, this bar here actually has a higher high. So this actually did not qualify there. So it's, yeah, let's clean that up, get rid of that. All right, so I'll just move everything back. And there we go. Okay. Let's see. All right, so that's it for basically the filtered inflection bars there. So that's rule number 1 here. All right, now identifying an actual signal bar. This is where things are really going to start getting complex, and the reason why is that because we're comparing. Let me go back to my previous explanation here. Yeah, so let's look over on the right edge of the chart here, right? So we do have a low inflection bar here, and we're gonna have to do a lot of price comparisons because we're comparing the high price of the body to the high price of the body, right? And that the body could be either the open or the close, right? So we're comparing 2 prices to each other for every single candle, right? So that does add a level of complexity. So, and quickly, Dan's asking, how did I reload the chart? I just hit F5, right? If you right-click on your chart, right there's your shortcut key. F5 is your NinjaTrader shortcut key, right? So these are all the shortcut keys for NinjaTrader. Yeah, so I just hit F5. So, all right. All right, so let me just take a moment here to orient myself for the next part here. All right, so another simple thing that we can do right now, like I said, I always like to address the simplest things first, is we do have, let's see, where is it here? Yeah, so the signal bar is given 4 bars to materialize, right? So when we do, so for example here, right, we do actually have an inflection bar here, right? And so we're going to give the next 4 bars afterwards the opportunity to close or basically have the body break above the high of our inflection bar body, right? And of course we can see that none of these candles do actually, form or create a body that's higher than this. So this inflection bar does not actually generate a signal, but we do need to take, right, the output on this and extend it forward, 3 additional bars. Right, so this one we know it doesn't work here, but this guy here, right, this bar down here, this bar, so we need to take this long signal, right, that qualified our inflection bar, need to take this and extend it forward another 3 bars. So we actually have this 4 bar period, where we can start looking for, bodies here, right, candlestick bodies to basically break higher than the high of this body. So we can do that easily, and that is going to be, we're going to use a signal extender to do that. And let's see, we only need to extend, I think, 3 bars. Yes, 3 bars. There. Right? So from right? So remember, we get the inflection signal right after the inflection bar. So from this bar forward, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we have a signal going out to the fourth bar after the inflection bar, right? So yeah, so that is necessary. All right, let's see. So now I'm gonna start getting into the more complicated part here of figuring out, you know, do we want to compare the open of the bar or the close of the bar, right, to these other candle bodies? So let's see here. So I'm going to just start working down here. Just start generating that. All right, so I think actually I need to find another area on my chart. So what I'm looking for, right, is I have some down bars, right, that are creating these low inflection points. So I need to find a place on my chart where it's actually an up bar or an up candle that generates this low inflection point. Yep, here we go. Right, so I have two different scenarios to work with, right? So I have technically an up bar that generated our low inflection point. So, right, so in this situation, I'm using the closing price of that body, you know, as the high of the body. And then if I go back here, right here, I have a down bar. So I'm going to be using the open of the body and comparing that to the other bodies here, right? Oh, let's see here. So the easier thing for me to start with is to use an up bar like so. And I guess this will become apparent here in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is, I think I need a bar direction. I'm going to start with a bar direction. And oh, sorry, that was a bar length. Wrong one. That was a bar length. So let me delete that bar length from the system here. It's a good idea to delete solvers here that aren't being used. So if you accidentally grab the wrong solver, you should delete it from your list. That way it's not wasting CPU time. So all right, let's grab a bar direction there. All right, and then the next thing I'm going to need is a bunch of comparison solvers. Yeah, going to need a bunch of comparison solvers. All right, so I have a name here. Let me explain this here. So, the way basically system design works, right, is that you're always working on the current bar, right? You're right. When your indicator is calculating, right, it's always calculating on the current bar. So, right, so you're always looking backwards in time. So, if you're comparing historical data, right, that's obviously looking backwards. So in this particular case, this comparison solver, in this particular case, we're looking at the current bar, and let's see, what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to look at the close and the open price of the body, right? Both prices, and then compare that to the closing price of one bar back of the previous bar, right? So my description here, my name is, I'm using OP for the open price and CL for the closing price, and then I'm comparing that to the closing price one bar back, right? So the 1 tells me one bar back. Okay. So for input A, that's price. Input B is also going to be price. Right. So if we want to, kind of visualize this here, right? We're taking, the close, right, and comparing it to the close, and then we're also taking the open, and I grabbed the wrong one again. All right, there we go. That's the one I want. So we're also comparing the open and comparing it, right? So because we have to compare the close and the open, because we don't know what direction this bar is going to be. This could have been a down bar. So if it was a down bar, the open would have been higher, right? And we always want to, and so it doesn't matter if it's the close that's higher or if the open is higher. As long as one of these body prices is higher, right, than our inflection bars, that's all that matters. Right. So, let's see here. Yeah, so for a long... Yeah, so I'm just kind of realizing to myself here that I can't actually compare both the open and the close and still get a long output. Yeah, so you know what? I'm going to take a different approach here. So I'm going to need actually 2 solvers, I think. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I'm going to make a second solver here. So one solver is just going to be comparing the close to the close, and then I'm going to switch over to the solvers tab, make a copy of this, and then this other comparison solver, I will set it up to compare the open to the close. Right. Like so. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, this is going to be the most complicated part of setting this logic up, setting this system rules up here. All right. Yeah, so it took 2 solvers to be able to compare, right, the closing price of the next bar and also the open price of the next bar to our inflection bar's, closing price. So it took 2 solvers here. And let's see here. Oh yeah. Cool. So yeah, I'm probably going to have to look for more more areas on the chart that I can work with because in this particular case, both the close and the open are higher than our inflection bar's close, right? And what I just did is I looked at both of these solvers here, right? And what I do want is I want a long output, right? So this close, right, the close of the next bar is higher than the previous close. So I want to get a long output, right? So remember, our solver is comparing the close of the current bar to the close of the previous bar. And then this one is comparing the open to the close. So the open is also higher than the previous bar's close. So I also expect a long here as well. So let me scroll forward. And let's look here. Yeah, all right, great. So I am looking at this bar right here. So we're comparing the close. Oh, actually, yeah. Well, yeah. This solver is actually looking at the close to the close, right? And the close is the bottom of this body here. And then if I look at the other solver, it's looking at the open down here and comparing it to the close. And though the open is lower, and so I'm getting a short. So that's what I expect is a short. So, yeah. So I'm confident that this is working here. Although, yeah, let me see if I can find another spot. I'd like to find another kind of setup similar to this one here. Here we go. And I'll circle this one. All right, so we'll mark that with our triangle. There. All right, so that's our inflection bar. And we do have, and it's an up inflection bar. So it's a low inflection, but it's an up bar. So this close, right? Obviously, this close is higher than that close, so we're getting along. Oh, sorry. Let's plug this in here. So our solver here, that's looking at the current close to the previous close. All right, getting along. And if we connect this up here, right, we're getting a short on this bar. And that's because the open is lower than the close. So, yeah, so we're getting a short, and that's okay. So, all right, so I need to connect both of these together with an OR node, like so. And, you know, what I want, you know, after we get an inflection bar, you know, what I'm looking for is a long output. It doesn't matter if we have this short output. That'll get kind of filtered out later on. But for now, I'm making sure that I have a long output if the close or the open is higher, right, than the close of our inflection bar. right? As long as one of these are higher. So with that, I'm also, let me do some additional checking here. All right, here is a situation I'm looking for. All right, so let's mark, there's our inflection bar, right? That low, even though it didn't make a wick, but the low, right, is lower than the last 5 bars, right? But what I'm interested in, right, is that the next bar here, right, the body is lower than the high of the body here. Right, so if I take the high of that body and extend it out, right, this candle here, right, both the close and the open is lower than this one. So this grades, this is the test scenario that I'm looking for here. So let me, so I can find this later on here. I'm going to mark this with a triangle there. All right. Okay, so now if I look at my 2 comparison solvers, right, on this bar, since the close and the open are below the close, right, of our inflection bar, what I'm looking for is that we're not getting a long output, right? And there's no long output. So that's perfect. Right? That's what I want to see there. So okay, and so now, so here's where our bar direction is going to come into play here. Let's see here. So with this bar direction, I'm going to use this bar direction to clean out the short output, right? To clean up the short output. So, and yeah, so we have to keep in mind that these 2 solvers here, these 2 comparison solvers here, right? You know, the critical key to remember is that they're looking back to the closing price, right? Both of these solvers are looking back to the closing price, right? So these 2 comparison solvers only work for an inflection bar that is an up bar, right? Because if it's an up bar, we want to look at the highest price of the body, right? Which is the closing price. So that's why on both of these comparison solvers, input B is set to the closing price, right? For both solvers, input B is the closing price, right? And input A, you know, it switches from the closing to the open price, right? So, right, so another way to think of that, right, is that input B, that is the closing price from our inflection bar. Right, so I know, so since these comparison solvers are built to only work with a up inflection bar, because I know an up bar, the closing price is the higher price of the body. So I can take, with that, I can take this bar direction, and right, the bar direction, you know, it's going to generate a long signal for an up bar. But what I need to do is I need to shift that forward 1 bar. So I'm going to use the start bar as a go, set that to 1, right? And you can see everything just shifted forward here. So let me set that back to 0, right? And set it back to 1, shift it forward. So with that, as a filtering mechanism, use an AND node. like so. And so now we actually start to have some processing going on for up bars, for up inflection bars. All right. So now I can see, right, on this bar, there's no output, right? No output there. So, yep. Let's see. All right, yeah, let me scroll back in the chart here, and we'll look at those other points on the chart. Yeah, here we go. Right, so we do expect, well, we already know that this is going to qualify for as a long signal bar, right? Because the close is higher than the close of our inflection bar. So I'm just making sure that we're getting a long output there. So we're good to go. And let's take a look here. Actually, I'll circle this as well. Same thing here. Yeah, it's going to clean that up a little bit. There. Same thing there. We know that this also qualifies for a long signal. There's a long there. And let's take a look at this. Oh, and so this was a down inflection bar. So yeah, we can't look at that. Right, so we haven't built that yet. So, all right. Anyways, I think we're good enough. So let's now build the logic for a down inflection bar. All right. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to rearrange things a little bit here. There, like so. All right. So if it's a down bar, we're going to be looking at the open price, right? The open price is going to be higher than the closing price. So we need to take that open price and then compare it to the close or the open, right, of the next bar, and then the next bar and the next bar. So, right, so we have these comparison solvers here where, right, it's looking at the closing price of our inflection bar. So we need to basically duplicate these comparison solvers and switch out the closing price for the open price, right? So basically these closing prices down here in input B, those are just going to get changed to the open price. And then that'll be our logic if it's a down inflection bar, so we can compare the open to the other bars, right? So what I can do is, again, to save me some time, I can go to my solvers here and make a copy of, right, of my first one here, and then I will go in and adjust the name, and then go down to input B and adjust the price to the open, like so. All right, that solver was, that one's done. So now I can take my next comparison solver, make a copy of that, and also adjust the name, and more importantly, adjust the price. There. All right, so there's my two solvers, right? And we can see it's the open of one bar back, and then we're comparing it to either the open or the close of the current bar. Right? So that's the logic for a down inflection bar. So let's go put those solvers on the board. So we're going to go to our solver nodes, existing nodes, And it's going to be the bottom two here, right? We can see open one, and open one. Let's put that on the board. Go grab the next one, put that on the board. And then we need an OR node, like so. All right. And so this, I put this bar direction in the middle because we do need a bar directions, right? If we look at this right now, right, we're getting long and shorts all mixed up together, right? So if you remember, this bar direction is what, if I disconnect it again, right, this bar direction is kind of what cleaned up our, the output here a lot, right? Did a lot of filtering. So, but now I need a bar direction that if we're working with, let's stretch this out here. So if our inflection bar is a down bar, well, since we're looking for long signals, this down bar needs to be reversed into a long output, right? So to do that, I can just use a long short modifier. And the long short modifier, we're just going to use the swap mode, right? That's going to swap longs for shorts and shorts for long. And so this will basically reverse the output of the bar direction. There, we'll just rename that to swap. Right. So if we look at this, and I need to change this start bars to go back to 0 here, right? So if we look at this, right, all these down bars now actually have a long output, right? So I took the bar direction and just reversed it, right? So let me put that back to 1. And so with that reversal, this down bar is going to generate a long output for the filtering here. So now I can grab an AND node. And let's take a look. There. All right, so we have a long output, right, on this bar, and we should, because we know that the close is higher than the open of our inflection bar. And over here, right, where I have this little diamond here showing a failure, so I usually use diamonds as kind of a failure. Right, so over here, right, neither the close or the open of this bar was higher than the close of this inflection bar here. So no output, right, as to be expected. So, all right, so this, so now, so we have the core logic built. So I'm going to try and squeeze this all together here. There. So yeah, so this is basically the core logic, and so the rest of it is just going to be repeating all of this logic here with some adjustments to our look back periods, right? And so let's, yeah, I guess we'll use this area right here. So yeah, let me just start getting rid of some of this stuff here to kind of clean up the area. Yeah, I guess let me pause here for a moment and just show you guys that no, sorry. There's actually nothing to see there. Sorry. Got a little ahead of myself. We're not quite there yet. All right. So, yeah, let's just stay. We'll just stay focused on this area of the chart right here. So, you know, I'll see if I can find an example here, but, you know, we know that actually, yeah, this actually is a good example. So, right, if we look at this right here, this is our inflection bar. And the next bar, right, the body did not go lower than the body low of our inflection bar, right? So that line illustrates that. So there's no signal on this bar. Excuse me. No signal on this bar, right? That's why I have the red arrow on the next bar, right, to tell us that, yeah, the signal is actually going to be on the next bar, because this body, right, the body of this bar actually did actually go lower than the close, all right, of our inflection, or the low price of the body of our inflection, right? So as the line denotes. So this logic here that we built, right, only works for the first candle, or the first bar after the inflection bar. So to compare, so to check the next bar, the second bar afterwards, right, our look back period is different. So we're now going to compare the close not to 1 bar back, but to get to our inflection bar, we have to go 4 bars back, right? So our look back period is now 2 bars instead of 1 bar, right? So again, so over here, right, our look back period is only 1 bar, right? Our look back period is just 1 bar. But, you know, if this bar didn't close higher, then we would have to, you know, when we got to the next bar, we would have to compare 2 bars back. Okay. So that's what we're going to have to do is basically repeat all of this logic here. And what we're going to be doing is our look back period here is going to increment higher by 1 bar, right? So we're going to increment our look back period on each of these solvers here. And also our bar direction also needs to be incremented, right? So this start bars ago is, it's basically the same thing as, it's basically the same thing as the displacement function of the look back node, right? So remember earlier we did use a look back node with a displacement, you know, and we wanted the displacement function from it. So in bar direction solvers, right? So in these bar direction solvers, the start bars ago is effectively, you know, doing it's effectively the same thing as a displacement function, right? So we need to take, right? So what we're doing is, remember, our bar direction is, you know, kind of cleaning things up, right? So we need to take, you know, the bar direction of our inflection bar and then shift it all the way onto the second bar, right? This next bar that we're going to be doing some comparisons for, right? So all right. All right, so with that, let me pause for a moment here. I see, looks like some questions or comments are coming in here into the Q&A window. So let me just pause for a moment and take a look at these. let's see. Okay, so Dan was asking, how did I get the copy of the comparison solver onto the logic board? Right. Yeah. So earlier on, guys, remember what I was doing is I was switching over to the solvers tab. Right. So we have the logic tab, which is our logic board, and the solvers tab. Right. So this is a master. Think of this as a master list of all of our solvers. Right. So this is called the solvers tab because it's only solver nodes. Right. It does not include function nodes, and there's no logic nodes. Right. Function nodes and logic nodes only apply to a specific logic board. Right. So solver nodes can be used in many different logic templates. Right? You can use this same solver node over and over and over again, but you can't use an AND node or a function node. They're very specific to the group of nodes that they're working with. Right? So it doesn't make any sense to put AND and function nodes over here because you can't reuse them. But your solver nodes, they're looking for conditions, right? And those conditions, most of the time you'll need to look for those same conditions over and over and over again in many different systems here, right? Many different systems. So right, so you can think of the logic tab or the logic board as building a system. And if you want to make a tweak to your system, well, you can make a copy of it, right? So I now have two systems here on two different logic templates, right, in two different logic boards, right? And so the copy, what I can do is I can go in here and make some tweaks. So like, for example, I'll probably, if you want to make a tweak to it, you'll probably need this core inflection logic to be the same, and maybe you're making tweaks to the other logic. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but maybe not. All right. And so if you're going to make tweaks, to your adjustments, right, then what you do is you can't adjust these solvers, right? If I go and adjust the look back period of this solver, well, it's also going to affect, so if I switch logic templates, right, it's also going to affect this guy over here because it's the same node, right? So this is my close 0, close 1. So those are both this node, this one node, right? So if I change one, it changes it everywhere in the entire system. So that's why sometimes you need to go to your solvers tab and you'll want to make a copy of it. So that way you can have in one of your systems, you can have a different look back period or a different price, whatever you need to adjust, right? You make you need a different node in there. Right, so just be mindful of that. That solver nodes are used over and over and over again. But if you are going to tweak one in one of your logic templates, just remember that it's if you tweak one in one, if I tweak one of the solvers in the other logic template, it's also going to affect it over here because they are the same node. So, all right, so let me delete this copy here. I don't need that. Yeah, so all I did is I went to my solvers, and after making the first two, looking at the closing price, right? So looking at the closing price, now I needed another set that looked at the open price of the inflection bar. So I just hit the copy button. So, all right. So there's that one. And let's see, whatever. Oh, all right. Well, Dan said, never mind. But I guess I'm sure there's other people in the room that maybe not have known that. All right. Yeah. So Dan's asking a good critical question here. So he's asking, so on this bar direction, right, I'm using a long short modifier to reverse the output or swap the output. He's asking, could I have used the inverter node instead of this? So no, inverting is different than swapping. Than swapping. So we specifically did not use the term reverse because reverse is a little more generic of a term. You know, reverse in some people's mind could mean inverting, you know, versus swapping. So, you know, swapping is very more precise in that we're taking, you know, a short output and swapping it to a long output. You know, whereas, you know, reversing, well, some people could think of inverting as reversing. So no, inverting, and let's see if I can find an example. I'm sure I can. Oh yeah, here we go. So what happens if you invert no output? Well, what the invert of that is both a long and a short, right? That's the inverse of no output, is a long and a short together. So that's why you can't always invert a bar direction, right? So, right, we have no output because of this guy, right? This is a doji, right? This has no bar direction. So there's no output. There is no bar direction for a doji. So, you know, you can invert the bar direction if your, you know, bar type can never generate dojis. So, like, for example, a Renko bar. Right, Renko bars, most Renko bars will never generate a doji. So you can invert, you know, a bar direction if you're working with doji. If you're working with Renko bars only in your system, then you can invert it. But otherwise, you need to swap the bar direction to change the output, right? So, okay. So there's that one. And all right, and the other one's Dan's asking, how am I panning? The middle mouse button. Let's see if I can get this over here. Yep, you got to hold down the middle mouse button. If you don't have a middle mouse button, that's what the hand is for. So the little hand puts it in pan mode, and then you have to turn it off, toggle it back off. So, right, but your scroll wheel on most mice these days, your scroll wheel, if you can press down on your scroll wheel, and that's your middle mouse button. So I remember the day when mice actually used to have a third middle mouse button, but you don't see that anymore. Those mice have all gone away. Yeah, and the middle mouse button has been replaced with the scroll wheel. Yeah. Okay, so we got some of those little side questions out of the way. So let's start. Let's start duplicating this logic here, as explained for the next bar. Let's see if I can get back to my work area. All right, yeah. So we got the logic for the first bar. Now let's build the logic for the second bar, and then the third bar and fourth bar. All right, so we're just going to duplicate this logic here. So let's expand this. All right, so what I need copies of these comparison solvers, because I'm going to have to adjust the look back periods for input B, right, of all of them, right? Because just as a reminder here, right, we're going from the second bar, and then we're going 2 bars back to get the price of our inflection bar. All right, so let's just do a little work here on the solvers tab, and I will just make copies. Actually, let me adjust the first one here. All right, there we go. Easily done. So I'm just going to quickly drop these on the board. And I clicked the wrong one by accident. Oops. So let me go and delete that one. There, clean that up. There we go. There we go. All right. So I've got all those nodes just stacked on top of each other. Let me just separate them out like so. Here's another little tip. You can right click and access a little menu, right? A little quick access menu there. All right. Now I could, no, actually I can't. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to adjust the name of this bar direction solver here. Yeah. So I'll call this a bar 1. So actually, programmers out there will appreciate this. So, you know, in NinjaScript programming, you actually put it in a bracket. So, actually, there, put it in a bracket. All right. So that little bracketed 1 is telling me that I'm using a start bars ago of 1. So basically, I'm getting the bar direction of 1 bar back, 1 bar go. Right, 1 bar back or 1 bar go. So I need to take this, let's make a copy of it, and I'll need to look back 2 bars, or my start bars ago is going to be 2 there. All right, let's switch back over, and let's put that bar direction on there. Connect that up, and I will need another look back node. Change the name, connect that in there. There we go. And actually, one last thing we didn't do is combine these 2 conditions together, right? Let's see, yeah. So remember the top section is looking at the open, right? It's looking at the open price, and the or let's see here, what is it? No, the top section is for if the, just to kind of remind everybody, right? The top section is in case our inflection Where is it? Well, in case our inflection bar is an up bar, and then the bottom section is in case our inflection bar is a down bar, you know, as this one's a down bar, right? So since our inflection is a down bar, actually this section down here is what's, you know, doing our price comparisons. So yeah, so regardless of whether it's an up bar or a down bar for the inflection bar, you know, we have to look for both, and so we do need to join them, both of those conditions together with an OR node. And the same down here. And let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. So again, we're just keep in mind that we're only looking at the logic for comparing prices, right? Obviously, you can see that the logic up here that identifies our inflection bars is not hooked in yet, right? So you just got to keep that in mind when we're looking at this. So what I'm looking at, right, is this bar here marked with the red arrows, right? Both the close and the open of that bar is below the close of 2 bars back, right, which is our inflection bar, right? So let me name these here. So I'm going to name these logic nodes here to kind of remind us of what's going on here. Right. So let's zoom in here a little bit. All right. So this OR node here, right, this is doing the price comparisons for the first bar after the inflection bar. Right. Let's see. So and then I can also name these AND nodes. Like so. So this will further remind me that this AND node, it's doing, right, the price comparisons for up inflection bars. And then this AND node is doing the price comparisons for when it's a down inflection bar. Right, so it's a good idea that you do go in here and name this stuff. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, so we've got the logic now for the second bar after the inflection bar. So let's start connecting some of these groups of logic together here. All right, so we can now, let's tie in our inflection bar identifier here. Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, I might have to actually replace this signal extender with a different way of doing this here, but maybe not. I'm not sure yet. That's kind of the beauty of BloodHound, is you don't have to know what you're doing, you know, beforehand. You can just experiment and see what works and try different ideas until you get to, you know, an idea, you know, a logic here that does work. So all right. So what I need is an AND node. So I'll put this into an AND node. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, so we're already starting to see some results. All right, so we have an inflection bar right here, right? We know that. We can see that's the lowest low looking back 5 bars. And then if we take the top of the body and extend it out, let's see here. Oh, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, if we extend it out, yeah, we have a long signal. And, you know, if you look at this, you're like, oh, yeah, well, of course, these bodies and that body, you know, and that body closed higher, right, than the high there. But the fact that we have long signals is the fact that we have long signals is because, right, if we look at our signal extender, well, look, our signal extender, right, it's got, you know, it's taking this low point, extending it forward, taking this low point, extending it forward, right? So we have all these other bars here that may not qualify as actually generating signals here. And then remember our comparison solver here, or I'm sorry, our logic here is only taking, you know, it's taking the current bar, you know, comparing the prices back. Then it's taking the current bar and comparing the prices back to the previous bar, right? So we can see this body closes higher than the previous bar's body. And this body, right, it's higher than the previous bar body, right? But this body, it didn't go higher than the previous bar's body, right? So that's why there's no signal here, right? So this isn't, you know, so as you can probably tell, this isn't quite ready here. The big problem that we're having is this right up here, right? So we've taken our inflections, our inflection identification, and just blindly extended it forward 4 bars, right? Now, of course, if we do get a signal bar, right, like we know that actually qualifies as a long signal bar, well, then we shouldn't be taking our inflection, you know, identification, and we should not keep extending it forward, right? Like we're doing, right? We're extending, right? We're extending the long output from our inflection bar, you know, forward another 3 bars when we already know that we should have our signal there. So we need to turn off our signal extender, right? Once we do get a signal, we need to turn off our signal extender. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the output, right? We're going to take the output from this logic. And so if this, let's see here, actually, this might be problematic. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, so I still actually might have to replace the signal extender with something else. But for now, I'm going to test this out. So I'm just going to take, you know, take the output from this logic here. And so if I do get, you know, if I do get a long output, then, yeah, if I do get a long, let's see, yeah, if I get a long output, then I'm going to turn off the signal extender. I'm going to turn off the long output part, right? So let's take a look at our signal extender, right? So I'm only going to be turning off the long output. So if there is a short output, that'll be left on, just in case, there's a short inflection, going on here. So, all we need to do is just turn off the long signal extensions here. Right. So this first long output will feed it back into our signal extender, and let's zoom in here so we can see what's going on here. There. So if we feed that into the reset, so this is the reason why I'm using a signal extender, because it has a reset, so I can turn off the signal extender when we actually get a signal bar, right? So what I need to open up is the reset options here, right? So we can see we have all of these reset options, and let's see here. Actually, I think the default, reset signal is set to true. That's the default, and I think that's all we need. Let's take a look. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let me disconnect this. All right, so we did have this low inflection here, so that turned our signal extender on, and then we had another one, right? Another one down here. Just going to save that as a default. There. So so we had our first inflection, a bar. Our signal extender is extending. Another inflection bar, our signal bar is extending. And so now if we connect in the signals into the reset, right? Bingo. Our signal extender turns off. Right, and actually, we can see it's working perfectly in both situations, right? So we have a close higher than the body of our inflection bar, and that turned the signal extender off. So there we go. So that's working for us. So now let's continue this logic here. So I'm going to need another AND node, connect that in, and connect in this guy here. Yeah, interesting. We're getting a signal there on the first bar. Yeah, so I've just identified a little problem spot where I'm going to need some additional filtering here, right? So if we look at, come on, there we go. So if we look at this bar, let's shrink that down, right? This is the first bar after the inflection bar, right? But we're looking at the logic that's supposed to be analyzing the second bar after the inflection bar, right? It should be analyzing this, but yet it's giving us a signal on the first bar. So why is that? Well, we need to recognize what this is doing. What prices is this comparing? So it is comparing the close of this bar back to the close of that bar. And yeah, right, that close is higher than that close. So, right, but we need to make sure that this is an inflection bar in order to do that comparison. So I need a way to tie in, our inflection logic here. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. So, right, I basically connected up our inflection logic here. And yeah, now I can see why it's actually working because, yeah, this is why it's working. Because that actually is an inflection bar. Right? It qualifies, right? Look at that low compared to the other lows. And then it made, right, this low went higher. So that actually is an inflection low bar. Let's see. No, that's not quite right. Yeah, this is not the inflection low bar. This is. Okay. Yeah. So we still have a problem here. Okay, I think I know what's going to work here. So, right, I have back here, we have a comparison solver, right? That's what we're looking at, right? And that's finding our actually, no. Yeah, maybe this will work anyways. All right, maybe this will work anyways. So this node back here is just, it's finding, lower lows, right? It's finding lower lows, which is kind of the qualification for an inflection bar. So I think I could just take this kind of lower low finder and tie it in with the bar direction, and that should create the additional filter to make sure that this bar is that going to be right? Well, I don't know. We'll just connect it up and find out. Yeah. So all right. So I'm going to, let's see. I need to make duplicates. I'm not making a copy, I'm just duplicating the visual element of this node, and I'm going to duplicate them with next to my bar direction here, because I just don't want leaders going all across my logic. It's just going to look really, really messy. So what I can do is I can drop that solver, right? So these two solvers are one and the same, but visually we're seeing two nodes, but they are one and the same node. It's just visually I can see two of them. But if I adjust one, it's going to adjust the other because they are the same node, right? If I go to my solvers tab, there's only one of these comparison solvers, right? There's not two of them. You know, if you look on the list, right, we only see one of these nodes. But for visual representation, we actually can see two of them. So, you know, so if your leaders get a little messy, right, you can do this little trick here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some filtering to our bar direction. And I'm hoping that's going to work out. That's going to give me what I want. All right, so here's a third duplicate of the same node here. All right, now that I've made that adjustment, let's go back to our logic there and test this out. All right. So far, it looks like it's working. Now, again, this AND node here, right? It's coming from the logic that's analyzing the second bar, right? So this is the first bar after our inflection. We have inflection, first possible bar, second possible bar, right? No signal. And that's because, right, the first bar actually is our signal bar, right? And so again, if we go back to this logic, right, we're feeding that back into the signal extender. So our signal extender is getting turned off. Yeah, and so that's what we were trying to do is, well, actually, we're trying to remove the incorrect signal here, and it's working. So, but also, I'm just, you know, verifying that this bar doesn't have a signal yet either. So let's see. And yeah, we are getting some other signals here that don't belong, although we're not done yet. We're still not done setting things up. But what I wanted to go to is right here. Shoot, I was hoping to see a short signal here, right? Because this is the second bar after the inflection. So let's do some debugging here. So first thing I want to do, right, is I want to check my inflection signals here. So So in looking at this, some other things I'm noticing here that I probably should have done earlier, but it's okay. At least as long as we spot a problem. So the problem is, so we have a high inflection, right? The high price dropped down, but then we had this bar just move higher. So we had a higher high made. So so doesn't it make sense that if we get a higher high, that we turn off our inflection, our signal inflection, right? Because this is no longer the high inflection, right? It's been disqualified by this higher bar. So maybe this higher bar might become the next inflection high. We won't know. So yeah, so let's kind of take care of that first. So I'm just going to move this down a little bit. There. Okay, so ironically, I'm going to take the node or that comparison solver that's verifying that we're getting higher highs, higher than higher than the last 4 bars, and so I can use this. I can use these long signals here to turn off the signal extender. And to do that, I'm going to need an OR node, right? Connect that into the reset there. Right, and I need an OR node because I already have, this point down here, right? This OR node is going into the reset, right? But now I need more nodes going into the reset. So I need to combine them all together with an OR node, right? So when you're just binding, when you need to combine a bunch of different nodes together, you use an OR node to combine them together. So let's just disconnect that. That can go into the OR node. That can go into the OR node. And that goes into the reset. So let's take a look at our signal extender now. There. All right. So that looks a little cleaner. So we do have a inflection high, and there's our inflection high being identified, and then we get a higher high, and so our signal extender turns off, and it turns off. All right, and of course, the signal extender stays off until we get another inflection high, right? And so here's our inflection high, and this is the confirmation bar of the inflection high, and so our signal extender gets turned back on, and it stays on. Yep, it stays on because none of these bars, all these highs went lower. Okay, so there we go. So we've cleaned up our inflection, extender a little bit, and all right. So let me go back to this point down here. Yeah, so I am expecting to see a signal on this bar here. All right, so this is the bar I'm working on. Okay, so I found the problem here. So I'm looking, right, yeah, I'm looking at essentially our bar direction, and so this inflection bar, right, this down inflection, it's an up bar, right? So, you know, luckily I named my nodes, so I know my logic up here. That's analyzing up and up. Let's see. No, yeah, that's analyzing up inflection bars. This one's analyzing down inflection bars. No, yeah, that's right. This is an up inflection bar. That is right. So, and so what I'm looking at is, right, this AND node going into it. And I'm not, right, I'm not, oh, okay. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, this is getting so complex here that I have to pause and work this out in my own head. Okay. So I did actually, this kind of thinking this through, I did find a flaw in when I added, remember when I added this little extra filtering bar here? So I did find a flaw in that logic there. Although it is working. Huh. No, it's not working. All right, yeah, so I did find a flaw in that. Yeah, so let me explain my little flaw that I found. All right. So our bar direction, right? It has a bars ago of 1, right? So again, what we're doing is we're taking the bar direction, right, of the inflection bar and shifting it forward onto the next bar here. So yeah, let's just look at this, right? We're taking the bar direction and shifting it forward, and that's basically creating the decision as to whether, you know, we're analyzing the prices for an up inflection bar, or for a down inflection bar. And this little filter was supposed to help make sure that this up or down bar was also a inflection bar. So we took the bar direction and we shifted it forward. Let's look at this, right? So we took this, you know, we took this, right? So we took this up bar, shifted it forward, we get a long, right? We took these down bars, shifted them forward, so we're getting a short on this up bar. But what I didn't do is I did not shift my little filtering, right? So my comparison solver that's making sure that we're getting, right, lower lows or higher highs, I didn't shift those signals forward as well, right? So if the bar direction is being shifted, well, so does my little filter, right? Otherwise, I'm doing a mismatch, right? There's a mismatch there. So let me correct that. That is pretty simple. All I need is a little look back node here. Connect that in. Let me rename this here. There we go. So we're displacing by 1. Right. Right. Okay. I need even further modification of my little filtering node here. Let's see. Yeah, all right, we'll just try this. So I need further filtering because, right, so as I look at this, right, so we can see on the chart when, right, we're making lower lows, we're getting a long output, right? And remember, everything is being shifted forward 1 bar. But you know, this bar direction here, we were using this bar direction, and remember, sometimes we were reversing the output here. So sometimes our inflection bar is going to be an up bar, or it might be a down bar. Doesn't matter which. So sometimes our bar direction is going to give us a short or a long output. So the problem is that, right, this logic here only generates long output. So it's only going to work if the inflection bar is an up bar. Right? It's not going to work for down bars. So what I need to do is, let's see, what should I use here? Yeah, I need another long short modifier. And so I need to take this long output and convert it into a long and short output. So that way it'll work, you know, regardless of whether our inflection bar is an up bar or down bar. So the mode that we want, let's see, is addition. Yeah, let's use addition here. All right, so as we look at this, right, this logic here is making sure, right, that when we look back the 4 bars, you know, that we're making higher highs or lower lows, and also looking back 5 bars to make sure that that is the highest high looking back for 5 bars, right? And so that's basically helping us, you know, validate this bar direction, and that this actually is a inflection bar. So I'll connect that in there. All right. So now that I've adjusted this one, let me just kind of make sure it's working first. Make sure that my thought process is correct here. And so once I've verified this, then I'll go down and make the adjustments to this lower one here. All right, so good. We do have our signal back here, right? So here's our inflection bar, and we know that this is our signal bar, right? So we got that one back, and I'll look here, right? So apparently, you know, we're finding this pattern all over the place here. So bingo, there's another one. That's working. Let's see, nothing here yet, but yeah, I can tell that we are going to get a short right there once we get everything tied in eventually. There. Let's see here. Yep, here. There we go. There's a signal bar. Signal bar. Let's see over here. Yeah, we know that we have an inflection bar. So, yep, that's a signal bar. There. Another inflection bar and another signal. Another inflection down, right? A high inflection for a down. And we got a signal. Yeah. All right, we know no signal there. Yeah, I'll just put a little diamond on it. There we go, no signal there. This one, here's our inflection bar. We know a signal there. Okay, yeah, so that looks like that has corrected our problem that we were having earlier. Yeah, so. There we go. All right, so far so good. Right? So hopefully this, illustrates that, don't expect to get things right the first time. You do kind of have to work through this. So, just as, any kind of system designer, you start with a design and you just keep reiterating and perfecting it until you worked out all the bugs and all the kinks within it. Okay, so now that we got that one working, let's apply the same adjustments down here. So let's see, I had a look back. All right, so I need another look back. Let's move that down there. And I'm going to need another long short modifier. Let's move that down here. And now let's zoom in. And start setting this stuff up here. All right, so this bar direction, right, it has a bars ago set to 2, right? So again, remember that's the same thing as basically a displacement. And so our look back node has a displacement set to 2, and so if we don't want to overthink it, remember all we needed to do was look at this logic up here. Well, it has a displacement of 1, so we know that this logic down here is going to have, we're going to increment that displacement, right? We've done that on everything, right? We did that on these comparison solvers, right? We incremented the look back period on all these comparison solvers, right? We incremented our bar direction, right? With start bars ago 2. So we increment our look back. All right, good enough. So now let's, our long short modifier, we're going to put that in addition mode. There. Connect that in. There. All right, let's take a look at this now. Here we go. So this high inflection for a short, right? We've been trying to work at, getting this signal here, and now we finally have it. Right, so there we go. So we have our short signal on the second bar after the inflection bar. Right, first bar didn't qualify, second bar did. And there's our signal. And let's see what else we got here. Let's take a look at this. Yep, that looks correct to me. That first bar didn't quite, close below, right, the low of our inflection bar. That one did. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like we might still have a problem here. Yeah, it looks like I may not have actually solved our problem that we've been working on for a little bit here. Right, so here's our inflection bar, but this is the first bar, right? Not the second bar. So the logic that I have connected up should only be generating signals on the second bar after the signal bar. So this is telling me that basically our price comparison logic, which is doing this, is not being filtered out. Let's get this open here. Right, so if we look at the bigger picture here, come on. My mouse wheel is really touchy. All right, so this logic down here is supposed to not work. Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I see why it's why it is still working. And that's because basically, you know, I kind of had a suspicion about my back of my head about this, but this filter here that we just, you know, went through, it's not actually validating the inflection bar. You know, again, all this is doing is it's just making sure that we're getting lower lows. It's not waiting for the next bar, which is, you know, which actually validates the inflection. All right, yeah, so what I'm going to need to do is all right, so I'm actually going to have to recreate this whole logic here. Let's see. Yeah, so this actually won't be too painful. So I can just get rid of that comparison solver and let's see. Yeah, I also need to get rid of this look back node, and I can tie that right in there. There. All right, before I go too far, before I tweak this too much, let's just validate, verify that all the signals for the first bar after the inflection are working correctly. Yeah, so let me just kind of scan through here quickly. So, all right, yeah, we have this one, signal there, signal there. That's the second bar. Let's see, signal there, signal there. Oh yeah, signal there. Yeah, I should mark that, shouldn't I? Bingo. Signal there, signal there, signal here. There we go, signal, signal, down signal. Okay, so it looks like everything is still working correctly, right? Yeah, after scanning through a bunch of these. Yeah, I'm confident everything's still working as we want. All right, so now let's make that same adjustment here. All right, to this logic down here. So I can delete, remove that comparison solver, take our inflection bar, and what the heck, we should go ahead and name this, let's see. All right, there we go. So there, so that's our high-low inflection bar logic. And let's connect that in down here. Now, I didn't explain this earlier, right? But if you remember, right, down here, if I zoom in there, right, I deleted that lookback node, right? If we look down here, we still have that lookback node, right? So you might be asking yourself, why did I remove this lookback node? Well, keep in mind that we already have one lookback node as a part of this logic, right? And also, keep in mind that this inflection bar, logic here, that let's see where. There. All right, let me connect this up here. Okay, so we're looking at the inflection bar logic, right? So remember, the signal occurs after the inflection bar, not on the inflection bar, but afterwards. So, what I had done previously, was I was actually making a filter that identified on the inflection bar, but it didn't verify that it was an inflection bar, right? So it was on the bar. So I actually had to use an extra displacement to get it shifted forward an additional bar to, onto that, past the inflection bar and onto the bar that confirms the inflection, right? But this logic up here, it is confirming the inflection, right? We can see that this long, right? This long signal, well, actually here, let's start back here, right? This short signal, right? It's after the inflection bar. Right? This long is after the inflection. Right? This long is after the inflection. All right? I'm not going to mark that. Right? So on and so forth. Right? This short is after the inflection. So I needed to get rid of the extra displacement that I had in my logic down here. Right, so down here, right, at this logic down here, I also need to take this look back and reduce the displacement by 1 in order to get this to all function correctly. Right. All right, so let's take a look at this now. All right, let's let's close that. Take a look. And just a little tip here, every once in a while, before I look at the chart, you'll notice every once in a while I'm closing BloodHound. I'm closing the BloodHound interface. And I'm doing that because it saves to the file, right? Whenever you close the interface, it saves all your work to the file. So it's basically, I'm just kind of doing a manual, automatic save for myself, just in case, right? Because you never know when your computer might go crazy. So it's a good idea to, when you're at a point where you need to just start scanning through the chart and analyzing stuff, but you don't need your logic, just close your interface. That saves your work back to your file, and then you can maximize your chart and just start analyzing your signals. So, all right. So this short, we've been working on this for a while. And so this one is still here and good. This one over here, I probably should have marked this one up a while ago. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, so far we haven't found any longs that occurred on the second bar. I'm sure we will eventually. But here, if you remember here where I left my arrow, we were getting I left this arrow. We were getting a signal on the first bar after the inflection, but it was coming from the logic that was only supposed to identify signals on the second bar, right? Like over here, here's our inflection. 2 bars later, right, there's our signal bar. Same thing over here. Here's our inflection. This bar, right, didn't break below the body of the inflection. So no signal. This one did, signal bar. But we also did earlier, we did have a signal, right, an incorrect signal on the first bar after the inflection. All right, so we were trying to clean that up. And we can see, well, this is the signal bar. So analyzing the second bar, that's been turned off, right? Remember, we took the signal extender and we turned it off. When we get a signal, we've turned it off. So our second bar, even if it does break higher than the inflection bar, it's not going to generate a signal. So, oh, hey, there's my March reminder rollover. So nice of them to finally pop that up. All right, let's kind of scan through here. Wow, again, another short that took 2 bars. Hey, here we go. All right. Here's our inflection bar. And then 2 bars later, we got our signal bar. All right, let's just mark that. Yeah, there we go. And again, yeah, it seems like these down moves take an extra bar. All right, so we at least got one kind of confirmation. Let's see if we can find another one here. Yeah, again, 2 bars. And yes, here we go. Okay, cool. So we've got another confirmation. Well, let's see. That was a down bar. And all right. No, that was a down bar. It'd be nice if we had a up inflection bar to verify, our logic's working correctly on the second bar. So that's actually what I want to try and look for. Let's So that's a down bar. Well, I think this is, no. Oh, yeah. All right. This works. So this inflection bar is a down bar, whereas typically, typically I would expect our down inflections to be up bars. Yeah, so this kind of confirms it, right? So our inflection bar is an up bar here, and it's a down bar here. Yeah, so I think that's a good enough verification that things are working correctly. All right, so where are we at now? We have the logic for the first bar, right? So if we zoom in here, let's zoom in here, right? So this OR node, right, we labeled it the first bar after the inflection. We have the second bar after the inflection. So now we need to build the logic for the third and fourth bar after the inflection. Let's see here. So something else we need to do. Yeah, so if our signal occurs on the second bar here, yeah, we need to feed that back and turn off the signal extender. So, yeah, I think we can just connect that in. So, like so. And, all right, it's thinking about it. So, all right, yeah, so this next part, basically, you know, we've gone through the process of, you know, building, you know, two sets of logic here, you know, one for the first bar and one for the second bar. So really, you know, as I said before, this is rinse and repeat. So, you know, there's really not much, you know, anything new to explain. So I'm just going to just try and quickly, you know, whip through all this and just build it out with really out any explanation at this point. All right. So if you guys want to take a break, go get a cup of water, you know, a cup of coffee, whatever, you know, you're not going to miss much. I'm just going to build this out pretty much in silence here. So now would be a good time to take a little break if you need one there. All right. And I'm just going to go into building mode here. So, you know, half the building is going to be on the solvers tab, and the other half of the building is going to be on the logic board here. Let's see here. One thing. All right. So one thing I noticed that, you know, there comes a point where, right, the calculation, you know, starts to get more and more complex here. And so you'll notice things kind of pausing for a little bit, you know, while BloodHound's, you know, calculating everything. So if you notice that pausing while you're building your system, that's what the auto update is for. So I'm going to turn the auto update on. So now BloodHound's not going to automatically calculate anything. So I'm not going to get any real-time results on my chart. Basically, I turned off the real-time feedback on my chart. I've turned that off, right? That real-time feedback, you know, obviously, if you think about it, requires recalculating anytime you make a change, right? So since I'm going to be building a bunch of solvers here and the logic, right, that's going to be continuous changing. So, so I'm going to turn off the auto update. That way I can build things a lot faster. So, all right, so that's probably the only explanation I'll give you guys. All right, well, it looks like everybody's still here. Well, actually, those who made it this long. All right, so I think I have it all assembled together correctly. Let me just take a quick peek at a couple of these things here, and you know, the things I'm concerned about are basically like our displacement and look back periods, right? That's really the only thing that's probably going to mess something up, is if I accidentally, you know, typed in the wrong, you know, look back number, something like that. So I'll just do a quick run through. Yeah, that looks all correct. So again, I'm looking at this look back period on my nodes. Yeah, and then for like the bar direction, I'll be looking at the start bar as it go, and then taking a look at the look back node. Yeah, all right, I think everything looks good. So with that, let's I'll just save it and then turn the auto enable on and close that out. And yeah, there you go. So you'll see that, right, BloodHound's going to tell you, oh, hey, you turn the auto enable back on. Oh, yeah, so there's actually two things I could do here. Auto enable, oh. So when the auto update is off, if you do want to see results, you can hit the apply button like so, right? And that'll give you a one-time updated calculation, right? So every time you hit the apply, that'll update the calculation when your auto update is off here. But let's see here. Well, yeah. Let's just hit the apply button. I was just going to reload the chart. So, yeah. So either I can, when I'm all done, I can hit the apply button and then turn the auto update back on. Or I could just turn the auto update back on and then reload the chart. You know, that's usually what I had. This apply button is relatively new, so I have old habits of just reloading the chart. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah, we have definitely quadrupled the complexity of our logic here. So it's going to take a little bit to calculate all that historical data. Wow, George is still here. Well, George says he's new to BloodHound and Raven. Well, George, you sure picked a heck of a day to join us on your first BloodHound workshop, because this system here that I built is quite a doozy. It's far more complex than 99% of what shows up here. So hopefully this doesn't deter you, in thinking that everything's going to be this complicated. But, this is one of those rare situations where things are overly complicated because, as I tried to point out many times, because the bar direction of these inflection bars could be up or down, and the next bar could be up or down, and we're comparing body prices, both open and closed. We don't know which one. It requires a whole lot of extra logic depending on the bar direction, of both bars, and whether you're going up or whether you're going down. So basically that is, quadrupled the logic complexity, because we have quadruple the number of scenarios. Right? So, yeah, that's why this system happens to be particularly more complex. So, yeah, I think most ideas out there are usually pretty straightforward. Either you're only comparing the close to some other fixed price, or you're only comparing the open to some other fixed price. It's pretty rare that, we see, people's systems where you're comparing both prices to both prices, So now I'm just gonna take the time to walk through this, scan through the chart, and make sure everything looks correct. All right. So this long looks correct, short looks correct, long looks correct, long looks correct. Let's see. Oh yeah, both of those shorts look correct, just barely by a tick. That second short just made it by a tick. All right. Okay. So I did find a problem here. We'll have to figure out what's going on. Yeah, this is curious because it really, from what I've seen other situations where this is working. At least I think I've seen other places on the chart. So we are missing a signal there for some reason. All right, so let's put that in a rectangle. Actually, all these signals are occurring on the first bar. I'm not seeing any signals occurring on the second bar after the inflection. All right, yeah, so here's what I was getting to. Yeah, so even this short here, which is the second bar after the inflection, is not showing up either. All right, well, let's take a look at this. And we'll see what happened here. there's our problem. All right. And what I suspect is all of these OR nodes going in to this OR node, right, which is then turning off the signal extender. That's what I suspect. I kind of had a gut feeling there that that might not work once we add all these other logics there. And oh, oops. Yeah, I forgot to turn on the auto update. All right, yeah, I'm gonna turn on the auto update. There we go. All right, yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at our signal extender, and yeah, so the signal extender was on there, but then it did get turned off on our second bar, so no signal. All right, so remember the signal extender is extending our inflection bar, right? That's our inflection bar extender. So let's take a look. All right, so I'm looking at the OR node, right? Which the OR node holds all of the outputs, right, that are resetting our signal extender. And I do see, right, since this is going to be a short signal, right, I see a short output right there, and so that's turning off the signal extender on our second bar. Okay, so I got to find out where that's coming from, right? Because we have a whole bunch of stuff connected into the OR node. So I will just have to walk through this one at a time. All right, so that OR node, right? There's no signal on our second bar, no output. Let's take a look at this next one down here. And all right, this is a little messy. So let's stretch this out a little bit more. There. And of course, yeah, I'm trying to get this all straightened out in my head here. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, so that's right. There's yeah, so it's basically coming down to the understanding of how the resets work with the signal extender. So here, let me. All right. So what we're looking at is the inflection bar outputs going into the signal extender. Right? So we can see my result nodes connected to this AND, right? And that AND node's going into our signal extender. Right. So, right, so we can see, so the signal extender is on, or it's turned on the first bar, after the inflection bar, right? So we can see that, right? We have the triangles here marking the inflection bars, right? Inflection bar, and so of course the inflection bar turns on the signal extender the bar after, right? So obviously the bar after confirms the inflection bar. So that's when you start looking for your signals. Now, the signal extender does not get turned off, or the resets don't turn off the signal extender on the first bar that it was turned on. But the resets will turn off this, the signal extender on the bar that it gets a reset signal. So let's walk through that a little slower here. All right. So let's focus. Let's focus on this right here, right? So the signal extender gets turned on, right, after the inflection bar, right, on the confirmation of the inflection bar. And then now let's look at the reset signals. All right, so if we look at the resets coming in, right, there's no reset signal on the first bar, but on the second bar, when we expect to see a signal, well, we are getting a signal coming in, which is turning off the signal extender on the second bar. Right, so that's our problem, is this signal here. Right, so if we look at the logic here, so now we need to go back to our 4 groups of logic here. Right, so we've just established that the logic for the first bar after the inflection, it's not going to turn off the signal extender on its same bar. So, but the logic here for the second bar after the inflection bar, well, it's turning the signal extender off immediately. So the solution should be fairly simple. And oops, I don't want to move all that. There we click off over here. So the solution should be pretty straightforward. And we'll do a little test. So we just need to put a delay mechanism in. So let me grab this look back. And where did I put it? There we go. Put it right there in the middle. Right, so another little tip. Wherever your zoom is, when you drop a new node onto the board, it always puts it right in the middle of whatever you're zoomed into, right? Whatever your display area is, it's always going to drop it right in the middle there. Yeah. All right, so let's connect this up to that, and then connect this up to the OR node. So remember, our lookback node introduced a 1-bar delay mechanism. Right, so the lookback node, we're using the displacement function here, which is turned on. It's set to 1. So that's going to create a 1-bar delay for the reset signals. So there. All right, so now let's take a look and connect that in and see if that fixed our problem. All right, just gotta wait for it to calculate. So we can see down here, BloodHound's telling us it's calculating. All right, well, I guess for the sake of time here. Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. You know, it's easy to get impatient, I tell you. But the better solution is to just wait. So, all right, there we go. So now everything is calculated, and we have our signal on the second bar. Good. So that confirmed that it's working. And let's see. All right, here's another signal on the second bar. And we also have different inflection bars. So this is a down inflection bar, and this is an up inflection bar, right? So that's good because it's testing both directions. You know, we have a test in front of us for both directions of the inflection bar, and they're both working there. So that, yeah, that's good to see that. Here's another inflection bar with a signal in the second bar. So good. There's another kind of confirmation. And let's see what else. Again, inflection bar. 2 bars later. There we go. Oh, and what happened here? So here's an inflection bar, and 2 bars later, there should be a long signal there. All right, so let's see what happened here. So first thing I'm going to look at is my signal extender. Okay, so there we go. Once again, our signal extender is getting turned off. Yeah, it's getting turned off before it gets to the second bar there. So, so I need to figure out which of these, outputs from the OR nodes, everything going into our reset OR node here. What the heck? Let's rename this here. Let's just call this what it is. It's the reset node, reset OR node. So everything going into it, and I need to see if there is a signal on this first bar after the inflection. Oh, you know what? This is probably what's doing it right here. Yeah, this third set of logic down. Let's see. No, that's not. Actually, that's not doing it. Yeah, interesting. Because, I figured it would be this third set of logic down because I haven't introduced a look-back node yet. Right? I haven't delayed the signals from the third and the fourth set of logic going into the reset. So, but that's not doing it. Let's check this one. Okay. So it is our fourth one here. All right, yeah, so let me finish. I probably should have gone in and finished setting, adding the look back to the other groups of logic there. So let's do that. There. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's turn the auto update back on. And oh, look at that, markets are closed. So we are at the 4-hour mark. Okay. So I turned the auto update back on, and I didn't hit the apply button. I'm just gonna hit F5. So yeah, just reload the chart using an F5, and that'll get BloodHound to recalculate everything as well, and BloodHound will then be calculating in real time. And yeah, Dan is asking, if I reduce the number of days of data on the chart, will that reduce the calculation time? Yes, it absolutely will. I know, I've been thinking about doing that. I just haven't done it yet. I usually don't have too much data on my chart anyways for these workshops. So when this is done, we'll take a look. Okay, so looks like our problem is solved here. So the signal on the second bar after is now working right there. All right, so let's expand that chart out. Let's take a look. Okay, good. So I just wanted to confirm that, right, these other short signals on the second bar are still there. Yeah, so they weren't affected. Yeah, that one's good, that one's good. Okay. So let's continue scanning forward on the chart. All right, so there's an inflection bar, and there's the price that needs to be broken, and we can clearly see it's not broken. So there's another problem right there, another issue to deal with. And oh, look at this. Oh, cool. All right, I was hoping to find a situation like this, because this is what you have to do to make sure that your logic is built out correctly. So there's our inflection bar, and then going out 1, 2, 3, 4 bars all the way out to the limit, right? So it took 4 bars to break above the inflection bar body, and there we go. So there's a confirmation that that this is working, going out to that 4th bar. So good. Let's see here. All right. Well, so let's stay focused on this guy here. All right. So here's a problem. Yeah, I am not sure what could possibly be generating this, this incorrect signal there. Yeah, that one's a bit puzzling to me. So I will just have to kind of start from the beginning, analyze everything, analyze all the different components here. So let's just take a look at our inflection bar identifier. All right, that's working correctly. Right, there's our inflection bar, and that's the confirmation signal of the inflection bar. Let's take a look at the signal extender. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's working fine. Oh, all right. Gee whiz, I totally missed it again. Well, anyways, our signal extender is working correctly, right? It's going out 4 bars as it should, because none of these bars broke the inflection bar body. But before I get into a deep calculation, yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's reduce that down to one day of data. Actually, let's see, what is this date? This is the 11th. That's the 11th. Okay, yeah. There. All right, we'll knock this all the way down to actually 0 days of data. All right, so in theory, everything should calculate 5 times faster, right? So, okay. Oh, look at that. Before I even had a chance to look at other questions. All right, here's our problem area. I've tested the inflection bar logic, and I figured the signal extender is working since we're getting the signal there. So let me just check each of these AND nodes here. Ah, interesting. All right, so we found our little rogue piece of logic here. So for some reason, our third group here, which is supposed to be only analyzing the third bar after, right, is popping a signal on during the fourth bar. So we've narrowed it down a little bit. So whatever let's see. Well, I'm pretty certain. I mean, it depends on what we discover here, but whatever adjustments that have to be made to our third group of logic for the third bar, we'll have to incorporate that adjustment into the other groups as well. All right. All right. Yeah, it was just a simple accounting error. Thankfully. All right, so the logic's good. It's just an accounting error. So, if you remember going way, way back, right, we needed to adjust all the look back periods. And I'm not sure how this happened, but this look back here, let's see, it was adjusted to a displacement of 1. I didn't adjust the name though. So let's fix the name. And so now that I fixed the name, I can see we're going from a displacement of 1 all the way down to a displacement of 3. So there you go. Bingo. Problem solved. Just a simple accounting error. So let me go in and knock all the numbers down by 1. So there you go. Displacement of 1 up on top here. Right? This was adjusted to a displacement of 2 down here. And of course, you guys should know what's going to happen next. This guy needs to be adjusted to a displacement of 3. There. And we'll connect that up. All right, well, just wait for the BloodHound to update itself there. It shouldn't take too long. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Okay, so let's see. I answered that one. Let's get rid of that. All right. Yeah, Dan's got a good follow-up question here on removing entry signals. Yeah, with Raven here. Okay. Yeah, we'll get, yeah, we'll get back to your question in just a moment there. All right, so one thing I wanted to make sure is that we did not, mess up this signal here, which was was on the fourth bar. So good, yeah, it's still there. Everything's working good. And this one was removed. So good. So let's keep scanning backwards. And look here again. So third bar. So we have a test of the third bar. There we go. So you can see our third bar logic is working correctly as well. Let's see here. Yeah, here's our second bar logic working for us. And nice. Here's a confirmation that no break is working correctly. All right. All right, so it looks like we're missing a signal right there. Yeah, so I wonder why, we've seen a lot of first bar signals, so yeah, it's kind of curious as to why this first bar signal isn't showing up. All right, so I'm just going to walk through each, each little logic group here. So for some reason, this is not being picked up as a inflection low bar. Interesting. Well, there's something really weird going on. Yeah. So here's our problem. The inflection solver, is not picking. It's not picking up this low price inflection, right? So, I have confirmed that these low prices are, what we're seeing on the chart match with the data box. Really weird. Well, all right. When in doubt, let me just connect this up. Oh, actually, you know what? Shoot, I should have left it back there. So I'm just going to reset. I'm going to reload the chart. And yeah, I should have left my result node connected up to the inflection solver back here, and just reloaded the chart from that point. Okay, there we go. And yeah, let me connect that back up. And all right, so I'm just going to reload the chart. And yeah, it's just refusing to recognize that as an inflection. Huh. Well, let's... All right, next step to do, if things are really weird, is let's shut this down and let's restart it. Darn it, I didn't mark it. Oh, yeah, I did. Yes, I did mark it. There we go. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I put those lines on there, thankfully. I did mark it. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, we connect to the data feed, and maybe that'll reinitialize everything. Okay. Well, I don't know what to make of that. It's the first time for everything, huh? Well, all right. I don't think there's anything I can do about it. Well, actually, I know there's nothing I can do about it, but I don't think I'll be able to figure out what the problem is. Yeah, that is just... Why on that one bar? Actually, it seems like just in this area. Here's another weird output going on here. So, that is not an inflection. So the first long is correct, but the second one is not. Yeah, maybe this belongs over here. Yeah, here's another one. Here's a long signal that doesn't belong there. Short's correct, short. Yeah. Seems like there's just something weird going on with this part of the chart. Well, this doesn't look good, does it? All right, let me restart my computer. Well, all right, at this point, I'm not going to waste any more time on this. I'll just have to take this back to Jeremy and have him take a look at what the heck could be going on. All right, so let's see. Let me check one more thing here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking possibly on my solvers tab that I might have accidentally hit a chart. I might have actually added another chart time frame. And so all this stuff might have been working on a slightly different chart time frame. But no, that was not the case. All right. So I'll connect that back up. That's it. Yeah, so there was no signal there, so that was correct. Okay. Yeah, let's see. These all look correct. So as far as this inflection bar, it actually wasn't the lowest low. It was equal with a prior bar. So all right. Yeah, that long looks correct. That short looks correct. Yeah, that short looks correct. Oh, all right. Actually, yeah, I correct myself. Let me correct myself back here. All right. Yeah, I was saying on this bar, this little doji here, that there was no signal because it was equal to the low of 5 bars back. But actually, there's no signal because there's no bar direction. That's a doji. So that was something that was not built. Oh, yeah, you know what? That actually could be a problem. So the fact that, yeah, we didn't actually build a doji logic into the system where there is no bar direction. Yeah. So there is a limitation here, Dan, in that if our inflection bar ends up being a doji, it's not going to generate a signal because there's no bar direction. All right. So in order to determine, whether we're using the close or the open, well, we had to look at the bar direction. So, yeah, in order to deal with dojis, we're gonna have to double the number of comparison solvers. Let me think about that, actually. Yeah, let me think about that. Actually, no, we won't need to double. So we've got one group here. Let's zoom in again so we can see what we're looking at, right? So we've got one group, right, for, if it's an up inflection bar, right, then it's, let's find it. Yeah, here we go. So, right. So we have a up inflection bar. Yeah, let's mark that for good measure. Right, so it's up. So we have one group of solvers that's comparing the closing price, right, the highest of the body, right, to the other prices. And of course, if it's a down bar, then if it's a down bar, then we have this group, using the open price, right? If it's a down bar. So we could have a third group here, or a third set, I should say. Sorry, we have one set, of comparison solvers for up bars, one set for down bars, and we'd need a third set for doji bars for each group to do that. And so what? How would that work? Actually, I don't think that would be all that complicated to work. Oh, actually, yeah, even less complicated. All right, so yeah, instead of, what would that be? Yeah, we don't need a third set. We would just use this set here, which is using the close, right? So we could use a set that if it's a, where did it go? Okay, there we go. All right, let me mark it. There we go. All right, so if it's a doji, we can just use the closing price. You know, it doesn't matter if we pick the open or the close, right? They're the same. So we could just use the group that uses the closing price and compare the closing price, right, to the body prices of the other bars, of the following bars. Yeah. So we've got that group already made, and so it's a matter of coming up with a, right? So this is basically kind of like, think of it as like the switching mechanism, right? So if it's an up bar, then we're using this group, this set, right? With these AND nodes, it's deciding, it's using this as our decision maker. If it's an up bar, right? Well, we use this set of solvers. If it's a down bar, then we use this set of solvers, right? Which is looking at the open price instead of the closing price of the inflection bar. Right. So we just need a decision maker here that says, oh, we actually have a doji, so let's use the set that just looks at the closing price. Yeah, it doesn't matter which one, actually. So all right, I need to kind of reanalyze our decision-making tree here. All right, so there we go. So we labeled this AND node. You know, it's basically making the decision. Do we use the close or do we use the open? And let's see. All right. All right, so actually this is even going to be even easier. So I'm actually not going to need any additional nodes or solvers to do this. So this is getting really knee deep into Boolean logic here. So, you know, the simple answer, the simple solution would be, all right, yeah, you know, we'll just make another bar direction, you know, and tie in our inflection bar, you know, into this, make another decision maker here, and then another AND node. Yeah, so I could basically create a doji bar finder here, and then create another AND node, and if it's a doji bar, you know, tie this set into an AND node with the doji bar finder, and then connect in our inflection bar finder, and we're done. But that's, you know, that's the easy way to understand how all this is going to work, for sure. But it is, you know, but if we keep adding more nodes, more logic, you know, we can see that this is already starting to get a little slow. when we're processing all this historical data, right? So it's not going to run that slow in real time, right? Because in real time, you're just processing one bar at a time, right? When you have to recalculate all this historical data, right? That's, it's all that historical data. But, as you're watching the market go forward in real time, you're only having to calculate on the current bar. So you're not having to recalculate all that historical data. So, yeah, so we could add that logic and it won't be bad in real time. But, if you want to backtest this, it's just going to make it slower to backtest. So I'm going to not introduce any more logic. And so the way I'm going to get this to work is, if you remember, you had asked, the question was asked, why can't we just use the invert? Instead of using the swap on the long short modifier, why can't we just use the invert? Why can't we just use the invert option or the invert node? And that's because, right, when we get these dojis, right, there is no bar direction. Well, that's actually going to be okay in this situation. So if there is no bar direction for our decision tree, it doesn't matter if we use the close of the inflection bar or if we use the open of the inflection bar. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm actually going to invert that, invert the bar direction, but then what I need to do is, my output is going to be wrong. So my decision maker is going to be reversed. So or the AND node is going to be reversed because I reversed my bar direction, right? Previously, I was reversing it after the AND node, but now I'm reversing it before the AND node. So, for example, let's see. Yeah. So let's look right here. Right. So this inflection up, I'm now getting short signals out of it. And this inflection down is giving me long signals. Right. So, I think all I need to do is just do this. Right. I just take my swap node and instead of going to the lower one, go to the other one. So this basically I'm doing a double reversing, right? So the bar direction is being reversed, or actually inverted, technically inverted. And so I need to reverse it again in order to use, this set up here, in order to get this set to be used properly. So, So, time to test that theory out. See if it holds any water. And here's what we're interested, right there. So we have a doji, and of course we have a higher, bar than our inflection bar. So there we go. It's working. It is working. All right, so let's go and make all these adjustments here. Luckily, they're not too much. Okay. All right, turn the invert on. then switch our long short modifier. Like so. All right, and so we just repeat this process 2 more times. Time to test it out. So I'm just going to reload the chart to get the auto enable functioning again. All right, while we're waiting on that, let's see. Dan said no problem ignoring the dojis. Oh well, too late now. So let's see. All right, let's see what other questions I can answer while we're waiting on this. Which actually shouldn't be too long here. We're still waiting on that. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Dan's commenting that as he was playing with BloodHound, he noticed that the inflection solver does not always pick up an inflection. You know, I gotta say, this is the first time I've ever seen this. So, so Dan, if you have examples, yeah, please send in if you can. You know, obviously we need to see a screenshot, you know, of the chart, you know, with the racing stripe signals on it. But more importantly, we need to see a screenshot. Well, not more importantly, but just as important, we need to see the settings of your inflection solver and also see that your inflection solver is connected directly to the result node, you know, as well. And as soon as this is done, I'll show you exactly the 2 screenshots that we need to see. All right, George is out of here. I don't blame him. Probably been here for a long time today. All right, let's scan through this, see where we're at, and I think we're about done. Famous last words, right? Okay. So that looks good. Yeah, that looks good. All right, let's get. So I just want to kind of quickly confirm that, you know, turning on that inverter, you know, and basically making the changes to each of those groups of each of those logic groups, you know, didn't go in and foul up, you know, the signals that were working really good. And so far, oh, here's an interesting situation. And yeah, all right, that's correct. Good. All right, that was a good test case there. Yeah, same thing over here. Yeah, another good test case. Okay. Yep, second bar signal. There we go, second bar signal. There, fourth bar signal. Oh, maybe the problem I was having with the inflection solver, yeah, actually was a data feed. So I'm noticing, I'm like, I know something's really, really wrong. When you have an NQ 1 minute bar, that's a doji, right? That's a problem. Right in the middle of the trading day, you know, that never happens on the NQ. So, yeah. So what happened? I'm on the wrong instrument, right? Actually, no. I am on the current instrument. Yeah, I am on the rollover instrument. Oh, so you know what? I probably need to go back to the previous contract month. You know, it's kind of weird to see that the general market hasn't rolled over today. All right, well, waiting on everything to calculate again. All right, yeah, so, you know, if you think you see a problem, then, you know, obviously we need to see the results on the chart, but just as important, you know, the chart is only half the picture or half the information, right? The other critical half is, you know, select your node, select your solver, so that way we can see what the settings are. You know, a lot of people just say, hey, something's not working, but we can't see their settings, right? And it's always a matter of getting your settings correctly. So none of these solvers have been have needed any, you know, fixes, corrections in like 8 years, right? Basically, we flushed out all the bugs, you know, within the solvers, you know, more than 8 years ago. So we're highly confident that there's no issue. And so I'm going to, you know, take a look back at the beginning of the chart on this inflection solver here to just verify that, see if it was some kind of weird, funky NinjaTrader data feed issue, which I have seen and other people have seen as well. So I think that's probably going to be answered, but, you know, you always got to verify stuff. Never take anything for granted. No. All right. So that answers Dan's last question there. Let's get rid of that. And yeah, so the March contract is definitely being traded today. You know, look at that. My marker needs to be moved way up, and yeah. All right, well, a lot has changed. Oh, all right, time to reload some data. Well, so far everything looked good. I think there's a good chance that, yeah, rolling back my futures contract month might have resolved, yeah, that weird little issue we saw with the inflection solver. Well, I think we're pretty close to setting a new world record for the workshops here. We're at 5.5 hour mark. Yeah, 5.5 hour mark. I think that's pretty close to the record, if not a new record length here. So, all right. But I think we're almost done here. All right, yeah, so here's all that missing data. Okay, so there's a couple of good confirmations that things are still working correctly. That's kind of what I was looking for. So, all right. So with that, all right. So yeah, I'm confident that yeah, everything's still working good. So I'm just this for my own sanity here. I'm gonna test this inflection solver. Let's connect that sucker in. All right, and we were seeing some weird stuff back here, and okay, well, that confirms it. Yeah, there's still some weird artifacts going on here. Oh. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, there's a couple more. What? And a couple more. Okay, well, I will take that up to the boss and have him take a look at it, see what's going on. All right, so with that, gentlemen, if I don't see you in tomorrow's Blackbird workshop, if I don't see you tomorrow, have a good weekend, guys, and keep those questions coming for these workshops, and I'll keep answering them. All right, guys, if I don't see you tomorrow, have a good weekend. Bye-bye.